You know, in the world of crypto, things move so incredibly fast. But there's this one concept that's really starting to build a bridge back to our everyday lives, and it might just reshape how we think about finance altogether. We're talking about real-world assets, or as you'll hear them called, RWAs.
But before we get into the weeds, just think about this for a second. What if you could buy a tiny little piece of a skyscraper, or a classic car, or even a famous painting? And what if you could do it for, say, $100? This isn't just some sci-fi idea. It's the real promise behind the tech we're going to break down today.
All right, so let's get right into it. What exactly are these real-world assets that have everybody talking? Let's break down the fundamentals. At its core, the idea is actually pretty simple. A real-world asset, or RWA, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a tangible thing from the real world. But here's where the magic happens. Its ownership gets converted into a digital token that lives on the blockchain. So, think of it like this. The physical house is still there, but your deed, your proof of ownership, is now a super secure digital token that you control.
So how does this tokenization thing actually work? Well, it pretty much boils down to a three-step process. First, you convert the ownership rights into those digital tokens. Then, you use the blockchain to track everything about that asset, its value, its performance, you name it. And finally, and this is really cool, these tokens can be programmed with specific rules, almost like a smart digital contract.
And the scope of what's possible here is just massive. We aren't just talking about one or two things. This can apply to physical assets like real estate, gold, and fine art. Absolutely. But it also works for intangible assets, the stuff you can't touch but still holds immense value. Things like stocks, carbon credits, even patents. The potential here is huge.
Okay, so we get what they are, but why is everyone calling this a revolution? What's the big deal? Well, the answer is all about how this tech completely flips the script on who can invest and how they can do it.
The first and maybe the most powerful benefit is something called fractionalization. For, ever, high-value assets were pretty much only for the super wealthy. But by turning a multi-million-dollar building into, say, 1 million digital tokens, you suddenly let smaller investors get in on the action. It just opens up a whole new world of possibilities for regular people.
The second game changer is liquidity. You know how selling a house or a rare piece of art can take forever? It's what we call an illiquid asset. But when that asset is a token, you can buy it, sell it, trade it almost instantly on a digital marketplace, 24/7. This gives investors a kind of freedom and speed that was just unimaginable for these assets before.
And finally, there's borderless access. It doesn't matter if you're in New York or Nairobi. With tokenized assets, as long as you have an internet connection, you can invest. This just completely tears down the geographical walls that have locked so many people out of international investment opportunities for so long.
Now, all of this sounds great in theory, right? But is anyone actually doing this? Oh, yeah. Let's take a look at some of the companies that are already making this stuff a reality.
This is happening as we speak across all kinds of different sectors. In real estate, for instance, you've got platforms like Lofty and Homebase letting people buy a piece of a rental property and earn rental income. For commodities, Pax Gold lets you own actual physical gold, where 1 token equals 1 ounce of gold sitting in a vault. And it's even hitting complex markets. Centrifuge is bringing business credit on-chain, and Ondo Finance is tokenizing things like U.S. Treasury bonds.
Okay, so let's be real for a second. It's not all perfectly smooth sailing. Like with any truly revolutionary technology, there are some pretty big hurdles we need to clear before this becomes totally mainstream.
And solving these problems is going to be tough. It's a huge collaborative effort. It's like a giant puzzle where regulators, the people issuing the tokens, and investors all have to figure out how to work together to make the pieces fit.
So, what are these big hurdles? Well, first up, you've got legal and regulatory stuff. I mean, how do you handle ownership laws that are different in every country? Then there's valuation. How do you prove, without a doubt, that the token's value matches the real-world asset? We also have to figure out governance and trust, all while making sure the tech itself can scale up to handle millions or even billions of assets. So, even with those very real challenges, it's the vision for the future that makes this whole space so incredibly exciting. Let's just zoom out and look at the big picture for a moment.
When you really put it all together, bringing real-world assets into the digital world isn't just a neat tech trick. It is a massive leap towards a financial system that's just more inclusive, more efficient, and more accessible to basically everyone. That idea we started with, owning a piece of a skyscraper for $100, that's what this is all about.
So, I'll leave you with this to think about. If you had the power to tokenize anything in the world, to open it up for anyone to invest in, what would you pick? A collection of vintage cars, your favorite local business? The possibilities are pretty much endless. And believe me, this whole journey is just getting started.